Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Hi, Cynthia. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. So, it's been a while since I've had someone talk about sales, and I feel like I was reflecting this morning. It's very similar to SEO in that it's so much an art as well as a science. And I think today, I'm hoping what you'll bring is like some of that science, but also the flexibility of, what happens in a sales conversation, especially since a lot of my audience, maybe they do feel a little sleazy or like just they don't really know how to approach that part of their business, but it's such a crucial part of business because if you're not knowing how to have those sales conversations, it's going to be hard to kind of go forward and reach your goals. So, why don't you go ahead and before we dive in, just tell me about you and your business?
Yeah, I am a sales coach. And so I'm that person who helps people get past that fear of being salesy. And I absolutely identify with it because I used to feel that way. So I understand how people feel when they're like, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be salesy. And it became a passion of mine because I realized for my own personal journey with sales that it really was about helping people. It was really about building relationships. And when I was able to see it in a very shifted way of serving people versus selling people, it made such a difference for me to really believe in the work that I was doing and feel really good about it. And that's why I started teaching it to people because I, as a health coach, knew a lot of health coaches that weren't doing anything
Yeah.
with their certification. And the whole reason that they went to get that certification in the first place is because they wanted to help people. And now there was this one little thing that they were letting stand in the way of them helping people. And what started to irritate me is I'm like, you're making this about you instead of the people that you want to help.
Yeah.
And when I realized I was so passionate about lighting a fire under those people, I thought, this is what I really want to do because I can actually make a bigger impact on the world. Making the world a healthier place is important to me. And that was really why I wanted to be a health coach. And when I saw that if I take what I know and love about sales and teach it to health coaches, that's like the domino effect, right? That's me helping them get out there when otherwise they wouldn't be. So we can help more people that way. So I really got behind that. And that's why I love what I do so much because I do see in a bigger way how it makes this world a healthier place.
Yeah, and I agree. Like health coaches, just a lot of health and wellness businesses are so heart centered. They just really care. Especially therapists and also, anybody in mental health. Oh, they just care so much about their clients, and then they don't want to talk about that or they just avoid it. And it doesn't have to be like that. So, I mean, just to kick it off, I mean, tell me a little bit about the methodology you use, and then we can maybe dive into like some actionable things that people can try after listening to this.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just have to say, I love how you right off the bat compartmentalize, well, not compartmentalize, but just distinguish that sales is an art and a science. It's both. And for me, that was when one of the biggest shifts took place was when my first approach to sales was strategy and science and the steps, right? The how to's.
Right.
And when I really started to lean into the art of conversation, the art of relationship building, that's when everything not just shifted in terms of my results and my success, but how I felt about it, which is why my results and my success shifted, right? Because
Right.
inside I was feeling really good about the work that I was doing. So a big part of my methodology is teaching people how to have conversations. Because what I found is most people, that fear of being salesy and pushy, they just don't even go into having a conversation. They don't reach out to people.
Yeah.
And a big part of your ability to make sales is dependent upon your ability to communicate and build a network,
Yeah.
right? Reach out to people initially who you know in your life already that might want to support you, might need help from you, and just start to let people know. So at the very beginning of what I teach my clients, it's let's just get you talking about what you do so that people know it exists. People know
Right.
that you have something out there. And relationship building is the heart of everything that I do. So that's a big part of the methodology is building relationships, starting conversations, and it's those conversations that turn into opportunities.
Yeah. And maybe someone listening to this might be thinking, well, I already like I do start conversations, but then when someone asks me about my prices or they like start to want to like get to know you, like maybe you freeze up or you're like, like, and then things become more sticky, right? Because you don't know how to maybe take that next step. So what do you recommend to someone who's like maybe having some like sort of sale conversation, but they don't really know how to like proceed, or it feels like dating, almost too. It's like, do I
It
don't
is.
want to say the right thing or the other person's going to think I'm a weirdo, right?
Right. What's he going to think of me if I say this? Is he going to ask me out on a second date if I? Yeah, it is. It's very, very similar. And that's why again, knowing what to say in a conversation is a way for people to feel really good about that conversation and confident in the conversation. And when they don't know what to say, they'll either avoid it or they won't get the outcome that they want. And so I actually became an exactly what to say certified guide. So there is a book called Exactly What to Say that I read years ago when I became really successful in my sales career. And I realized knowing exactly what to say is going to be the way that people can feel more confident and comfortable in those conversations, so that you know how to handle it when somebody says, what do you charge? Because here's what I love to right off the bat, and I'm just going to share this with everybody, and I want you all to hear it. When somebody asks what you charge, that's a damn good question for them to ask.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't want what you have, they wouldn't be asking that question. So right off the bat, it's not always about, what do I say when somebody says that? It's, what do I want to think about that question? What do I want to actually recognize that that question represents? And that's going to make you feel a lot different in your response, because now you know, gosh, that person's somewhat on some level interested in what I'm talking about, or they wouldn't have asked the price. Because I sure as heck, I don't go into Target and say, or any store for that matter, and say, how much does this thing cost if I don't want it?
Right.
Right? Like I'm not holding up products in the middle of a store saying, how much does this stupid thing cost that I don't want? So when somebody asks that, I think that is part of the methodology that's so important, is how we're thinking about what somebody's saying. And what I teach in conversations, one of the cornerstones of a really good conversation is staying curious in the conversation. And curiosity is a way for you to gain context, gain an understanding, really try, because there's always layers, right? When we're in a conversation with somebody and it's potentially about our services or how we can help them, there's layers underneath there. Like I always like to say, nobody wants to lose weight just to lose weight.
Right.
And when I first say that, sometimes people, they're like, yeah, they do. They want to lose weight, but why? There's always a need behind the need. There's always something underneath that. And when we are willing to stay curious and dive into those layers, what you'll end up doing is get somebody connected to that emotion of why they want to lose weight. You're going to get them connected to the real reason why they want to lose weight. And that's a way to help them make a decision, because where they're at with the weight that they have, they've gotten used to being at that weight. As much as they don't want to be there,
Yeah.
as much as they're telling you all the things that they want to change about it, they have normalized being in that position. They
Right.
have somewhat normalized that feeling, and they're okay being there.
Right.
People don't move to become comfortable. They move to avoid something. And when we can get them into that emotion of why they don't want to be there, or what it is about them that makes them want to do that, now you're helping them make a decision, because you're getting them connected to what it's all about for them. And that's why people do things. They do things for their reasons, not for ours. It doesn't matter if you have 5 open spots to your group program that you want to sell. That's not why somebody's making their decision. So your job is to remove why you want to make it happen. And in the conversation, help uncover why they want to make it happen, because that's going to make them say, okay, yes, let's do this. Or maybe they'll decide not to, but we want to get them to that place of making a decision. And when we connect them to that, that's what it's all about.
I love that. It sounds like there's, obviously becoming the listener and connecting to those deeper desires of wanting, something in the future, or, letting go of something in the past. Like, it sounds like it can be fear-based, but it can also be very desire-based of like, I want to look like this, or I want to feel like this, right? Those sort of things. But then there's also the inner work of like, I feel like getting over my own fear of being like, what's my story like going on, right? When someone asks certain things that maybe feel triggering, and it's like, okay, getting over that is of service, because if I'm able to show up neutrally, and it's literally part of my business to be able to sell, and seeing it as part of that service can change also like how we do our own work. Because it can feel, if you've never done sales before, it can feel very overwhelming, right?
Extremely. Oh, when I was new to sales, I shed tears. There were days that I was like, I can't do this. Like it is very uncomfortable, right? Anything that it's awkward until it's elegant.
Right.
Anything that we do for the first time and for the first couple of times is new to us. And we're navigating our way through that. And we don't always know what to say or what to do, right? That
Right.
all the more reason to have a coach or a mentor or somebody to guide you through some of these things that you're doing for the first time. And somebody who's been there, somebody can help you navigate that, somebody who's going to encourage you that even when those challenges come up, to keep going and stay persistent, because yeah, it is uncomfortable at first. And part of the reason it's uncomfortable is we're still making it about us and how we feel, instead
Absolutely.
of what is that person experiencing right now that needs my help? And so often I find that my clients do this, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Cynthia, where they're so worried, they, as in the client who wants to sell something, is so worried about what the people who don't need that thing are
Yeah.
going to say or think or react, that you're actually alienating the people that the thing is for. Your service,
Yeah.
your help, what you do for people is for a specific person. And when you worry so much about what other people are going to say about it, you're actually alienating that exact person you said you really want to help.
Yeah.
Right? When we don't put ourselves out there in a bigger way, normally it's our own fears, and it's our own fears based on what we think other people that don't need our thing are going to say about it. And that's what I think it's so important to remind people. Quit making it about you.
Yeah.
That's not why you went in to do this to begin with. You made it about the people that you really want to help. And they're sitting there with the problem that you solve, and they're wondering what the heck to do about it. And you're sitting there going, I don't want to feel salesy. And the two never connect, and that person doesn't get the help that they need. Right.
Yeah.
So that's part of where the discomfort comes from. And that's another great reason why you want to seek somebody out who's done what you're trying to do. Hire a coach, find a mentor, because these things are going to come up. Like I said, I shed tears. I mean, when I started my corporate job, my goal was to become number one in the nation, but that didn't mean it wasn't a bumpy ride on the way there. And I felt really uncomfortable at certain times. And because I had support and because I had a manager, I was able to get through some of that and learn how to navigate it better and differently. And I did go on to become number one, but it wasn't on my own. It was certainly because I put the right people around me to support me through some of those challenging things that were going to come up.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot when you run your own business. You just feel like you have to do it all on your own. And it's very noble, but at the same time, it's completely unrealistic. I mean, yeah, you look at these big companies, they have a support, they have a teams. And so you have to build as a solopreneur, your team, right? Your inner circle where you're helping each other. And that can be both hired or, it can be not. But and I love what you were saying about like not speaking to the people who are like you have your own objections, right? Maybe like I was saying before, like as you're selling, things come up, like fears come up, thoughts come up, and they can be rooted and they could go really back. It could turn into like this real deep healing. And so sometimes inadvertently, and I've done this at the beginning of my business, like I'm speaking more to the objections than to like the person who's already kind of ready to buy. And it's like very
Yep.
self-sabotagey. And so you have to,
Yep.
well, I was, at that point I had to think about, okay, how does that person who's like pretty much ready to buy, what are they thinking? Like, where are they at? Instead of the person who's like doubting everything about SEO or doesn't even believe in SEO. Like I've had people say to me, like, who blogs? And it's like, okay, I don't want to be talking to you. You're great, but no. Right. So
Right.
I think
Right.
that inner work has to go in tandem, right, with all the outer stuff.
Completely. Because it is, again, it comes back to, who are you making this about?
Right.
Right. And sometimes we just really need to recognize it's us, that we're in our own way. And, even to the point that you said about like, trying to do it all ourselves in our business as a solopreneur, it's noble, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's people hide behind that shield of, it's virtuous and it's noble for me to take this all, I work hard and this is how, but like, okay, and who are you helping? Who are you
Right.
preventing yourself from helping by carrying that story on and on, right?
Right.
Like by refusing to get help. And I think it's just so important to remember that, exactly what you said. Are we speaking too much the objections because that's what we're focused on because
Yeah.
we're in fear of it? You focus on grows. There's people right now who are ready to buy from you. And when you're
Exactly.
so focused on the people who aren't, you're going to miss that completely.
Right.
Complete. So yeah, I think it's really important to remember there's people ready right now, and you're probably missing them if you're thinking too much about the ones who aren't ready.
Okay, so let's get into some phrases. I know there's like it's a whole book, right, and a methodology, but I would love to hear maybe your top few that you would love to like share in this conversation.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to remind people too is it's never a game of pairs, right? It's not when somebody says this, you say this. So I love these phrases. I look at them more as like puzzle pieces that you're going to put together to design the word tracks for whatever it is that you need to convey in the conversation. Because one of the other cornerstones, I mentioned one of the cornerstones is curiosity. Staying curious in the conversation helps you gain context.
Right.
And context is really important, because otherwise you're just trying to shove something at somebody that you don't even know if they necessarily need. So you want to gain context first before you start making recommendations,
Yeah.
right? It's like prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. So we don't
Right.
want to just say things. So curiosity is really important. And the other thing is, one of there's four total cornerstones. One of the other ones is, the worst time to think about what you're going to say is the moment you're going to say it. We do want to be thinking ahead. What are my conversations that I have coming up today? What are the critical conversations that I have on repeat in my life, right? Like, how often do I have sales conversations? How often do I talk to my team? So thinking what these conversations are is also going to be just as beneficial as knowing the words. The,
Right.
the math teacher me always likes to explain this. For those that don't know, I taught high school math for 15 years. I would never just hand somebody a formula.
Right.
It's not going to do any good. It might, a couple times, you might plug the right things in the right place a few times, but then if you don't, you're not going to know why it didn't work.
Right.
Right. So we want to have like a contextual understanding of what these phrases are, when to use them, why they work. It's almost like choreography. That's what I've been using a lot lately, is my analogy of, like, if you were to put together a dance, you can take these phrases and put together a conversation to help you design the outcomes that you want more often. And I'll share the other two cornerstones really quickly. One of them is, people do things for their reasons, not yours. And I already mentioned that briefly, right, with the layers and
Absolutely.
getting to the need behind the need in the conversation. Your job is to find out, why does that person want to lose weight? Why does that person want more energy? Like, if somebody just comes to you and says, I want to have more energy, don't just take that at surface level,
Yeah.
because they're not going to make a decision just based on, I want more energy. Why? I had a client do this once, like textbook style, because she was planning ahead. She thought about what she was going to say before she said it. We worked together on our session before she went into this call, and she got the woman to eventually say, because she said, I want more energy. That was her first thing. And she said, why do you want more energy? And through conversation, the woman said, well, I can't play with my grandkids. I can't, I'm out of breath all the time. And I have to sit there and watch them play. And it just makes me, and the woman started crying. And that's
Wow.
what we want, not people crying, but we want them connected to what this is really about for them. Because
Yeah.
what you're doing is helping them make a decision for their reasons,
Yeah.
because they want to make it. That's really what we are. We're professional mind maker uppers, right? We're not selling somebody something. We're helping somebody make up their mind about something that they really want to do. We're helping them make a buying decision. And
Yeah.
when you focus on building empathy, which is what this is all about, right? People do things for their reasons, not yours. Focus on empathy and building that. You'll understand why they would want to make this decision, and they'll understand it too, which is even more powerful. The fourth cornerstone is, the person in control of the conversation is the person asking the questions. So a lot of these magic phrases, a couple of the ones that I'm going to share are actually questions,
Right.
because what you want to do, again, is gain context, gain an understanding. That person should be doing the majority of the talking, because number one, it helps you understand where they're coming from, what they really want, and it helps them understand where they're coming from and what they really want. Because a lot
Yeah.
of times they're saying it out loud for the first time.
It's like
So the person in
therapy.
control is asking, yeah, oh, totally. I mean, it really, listen, at the end of the day, a sales conversation is a coaching conversation. You're
Yeah.
coaching that person to make a decision,
Yeah.
right? And I have a lot of people, they're like, but I don't want to push somebody. What the hell do you think you're going to do with them once they're inside of your container? You're going to have to be asking them to make uncomfortable decisions, because they're
Yeah.
going to have to make shifts and changes. Like, we're health coaches, for God's sake. People are going to have to make changes that are going to be uncomfortable for them. So if you can't help somebody navigate through something that's uncomfortable for them and help them make a decision, how are you going to be a coach for them that
Right.
helps them do that once they're in your container? So really, this whole, I don't want to feel pushy and salesy. Listen, the sale does not end when the person pays you to be their coach. You have to sell them all the time.
Yeah.
Not a hard sell. Like, you don't want to pull somebody across the line that isn't really ready to work with you, so that you have to talk them into it every time. But you are going to have to stay on top of that with people, because there's going to be uncomfortable changes that you need them to make and that they need to make if they really want those results. So
Yeah.
it doesn't stop just because they paid you money, right?
Right. Right. Well,
Um,
yeah.
so I think that those four cornerstones are really important to remember, because again, these magic phrases aren't just pairs, like pair it with this and then it goes with
Yeah.
this. If I knew what you always say, when somebody says that's too expensive, I knew the answer that made them just completely go, oh, you're right, it's not too expensive. Here you go. Here's all my money. I'd sell that for $1 billion and I'd call it a day, because everybody wants to know that, right? Um, so those cornerstones are really important, because it's the conversation really where the magic happens.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite phrases that I love to teach, because one of the reasons that people don't have clients many times, what I find is they're not asking for them. They're not starting a conversation. So often
Right.
people come and they want to hire me and they're like, I don't have clients. And I'm like, well, why don't you have clients? Well, I don't know how to find them. Well, how often are you asking for clients? And a
Right.
lot of times they're like, oh, I'm not. Are you asking for the business? Are you asking the question? And sometimes they're like, I don't even know how to start it. So here's one of my favorite phrases, my favorite lines for starting a conversation because it's rejection free. So you can start a conversation with pretty much anybody at just about any time and introduce whatever you want. And here's why all these phrases work. Before I give you the line, they work because you're talking to the person's subconscious when you're using these phrases. That's why they're magic phrases. You're speaking to the subconscious part of the brain. The reason the subconscious part of the brain is able to make decisions is it's doing it for you all day long. It's breathing for you right now, and you're not thinking about it.
Right.
Your heart beat all night last night while you were sleeping, and you didn't have to tell it to. You didn't have to think about it. I bet there's been a time you've gotten in your car to drive somewhere that's very familiar to you. And when you got there, you were like, whoa, I don't even remember the drive. Your
Right.
subconscious got you there, right? So your
Right.
subconscious is making decisions for you all day long. So these phrases talk directly to that part of the brain. So here's the phrase rejection free that you can introduce anything to anybody. I'm not sure if it's for you, but now, obviously, you're not going to stop at the but. You're going to say, I'm not sure if it's for you, but I've got a great new group program that is going to focus on getting more energy and losing weight. Who do you know that might be interested? I'm not sure
Love
if it's
that.
for you, but we're going to a new sushi restaurant this Friday. Would you like to join us? I'm not sure if it's for you, but I'm going to go check out that new store down the road that just opened up. Right? Like it's not even just in a sales conversation. I just gave you a couple of examples where you can use this in any context, any conversation. Here's why it works. I'm not sure if it's for you is the rejection free part where you're saying, I don't know if it's for you. Pressure's off. That's what the person's brain hears. They hear, no pressure. But they also hear, I'm not sure if it's for you. Well, tell me what it is. I want to decide. Nobody wants to be told what's for them, right? And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden, when you say, I'm not sure if it's for you, they're like, I'm listening. And the reason the but is so important is a lot of times, right? We say, don't use but because it negates everything that came before it. We actually want that in this case. You want to negate, I'm not sure if it's for you, because you're basically saying, but I'm going to tell you anyways. And here's the other thing. Now you've gotten them focused on what comes after the but. Because if you say, I'm not sure if it's for you, it's almost like FOMO, right? Fear of missing
Yeah.
out. They're like, well, tell me, I'm listening. What comes after the but? I want to hear it. So now
That
this is
suspense.
what's so beautiful. Isn't it great? Right? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure if it's
love
for
it.
you. And if you think about it, like, if I were to say to somebody, like, let's just use the word but. If I were to say, I love everything about your outfit, but whatever came after the but, I love everything about your outfit, except for those pants don't fit very well. Or I don't know, that would be like a shitty thing to say to somebody. But ultimately, what's that person going to remember? They're
The
just going to remember
pants.
that part that came after it. They're not going to remember what you said before that.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
what we want in this case,
Right.
right? So now I'm not sure if it's for you, but now we've gotten them focused on the one thing that we want them focused on anyways, because that's the thing that we wanted to introduce to them. It's rejection free. If it's not for them, cool. They're just going to say, yeah, you're right. It's not for me. And if it is, what are they probably going to say? Oh, interesting. Tell me more. So now you've opened a conversation. And that's the whole point of these phrases and these word tracks is not to, hey, I'm going to say this one thing and that person's going to say yes and become my client. It's opening up the conversation. You mentioned dating before. We don't just meet somebody and in that first interaction say, let's get married,
Right.
right? There's a gestation period, if you will, that the relationship needs to develop and take time to develop, know, like, trust, just like
Right.
in sales.
Right.
And so these phrases are more to put dashes and commas at the end of your sentences so that you're continuing conversations versus racing to the finish line. Let me see if this person can be my client. So opening up a conversation like that, I'm not sure if it's for you, but they might say, oh, that sounds really great. I've got so much going on for the next month. How often do you do this thing? Okay, there you go. Maybe they weren't ready to be a client right now, but maybe when you run it again, they're going to be ready for it, right? But you wouldn't have known that had you not opened up the conversation. So that rejection-free opportunity to open a conversation is really powerful because there's so many opportunities there.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. I might even use that with my boyfriend. It's like a good, it's a good way
Yeah,
to yeah, propose things in a neutral, yeah. No,
yeah,
no. No.
Well, it's funny because my workshop that I just ran on this, so I run workshops on the exactly what to say phrases. And one of the women that went through my last workshop said, okay, not only did I get clients from this, but this saved my marriage because I learned how to talk to my husband in a more productive way to where we opened up conversations and actually discussed things.
Oh my God,
So,
that's genius.
right?
You're like a relationship coach slash
That's
sales
what I
coach.
said. I was like, it's like invoices in the mail for your relationship coaching. But that's what's so beautiful about it is it's not, and one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about teaching this, you know, like I said, I was so excited about it. I went and became a certified guide of exactly what to say because I think the world needs this more than anything right now. We need connection. And the way to connection is through conversation. And so often people just close themselves off because they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They're afraid of not having the right thing to say. And to me, it's like, oh my gosh, that's the exact opposite. Because once you go into conversation, you don't actually need to know all the perfect things to say. You just need to know how to approach it so that you're asking questions and getting that person talking. The conversation will evolve and in a beautiful way. And because you know the questions to ask and the things to say along the way, it's like you're guiding them through a dance.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my God, so good. Do we have time for one more
Yeah.
or?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do let's see. What am I? There's so many. They're all my favorites. Well, I kind of mentioned the other one in combo with if I'm not sure if it's for you. One of my favorite ones is I just said they're all my favorite, but who
That's
do you
okay.
know? I know, right? I love that. Who do you know? So if you are maybe launching something new or talking about a new offer and again, it's a rejection free way to open something up to somebody. Hey, who do you know that might be looking to get more energy? In what you're really doing is you're asking through the person because you're not saying, hey, are you interested in losing weight? Are you interested in getting more energy? Hey, who do you know who's interested in such and such? And you know what? A lot of times they'll say, well, I might be interested in that.
Right.
That's a great way to find out if they are.
Right.
They'll self-select. Hey, tell me more.
Right.
And if not, they might say, oh, you know, my friend Roger had said something about that. I think he might be interested. Oh, great. Would you mind letting Roger know the next time you talk to him that this is something that I'm doing and just see if he might be open to me contacting him?
Cool.
And it's like, you've just opened up a conversation. You've created some opportunities in a very easy way. Like, who do you know?
Right.
You're not saying, are you interested? Do you want this thing? And so often I think that's really what it's about too, right? Not jumping to the finish line, but hey, who do you
Yeah.
know? And who
Yeah. And
knows
they,
why? Oh,
sorry,
sorry,
they
go
could even
ahead.
say like, they could even say, well, let me get back to you. Or, if they can't, it's just a great way to keep it going versus like, I'm looking for, or I don't know, some other way it could feel more aggressive or more in your face. And this way is just more light.
And it's a great reason then to follow up. Say, who do you know? And they might go, oh, I don't know. Let me think about that. Oh, I don't need a name right now. Or I don't need, their contact info or anything right
Exactly.
now, but who are you thinking of?
Yeah.
Just tell me who you're thinking. Who came to mind?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
my friend Rachel. Oh, okay, cool. When are you going to see Rachel again? I usually see her once a month when our kids get together. Oh, okay, cool. Maybe mention something to Rachel and see if she might be interested. Oh, yeah, okay. Would it be okay if I followed up with you in a month after you've spoken to Rachel? Right. And then you're still in control of the conversation
Yeah.
because in a month you're going to follow up and say, hey, what'd Rachel think? And if she wasn't into it, cool.
Yeah.
But then you've given yourself a breadcrumb,
Right.
another I always say as salespeople, we're like detectives in so many ways, right? We're just following the clues, following the opportunities. That's what it's all
Yeah.
about.
Oh, I love that. Oh, thanks so much, Nicole. This was so great. So where can someone hang out with you, find about your programs and those sort of things?
Yeah, I have a Facebook group that is called Nicole Sales Superstars, and I do free trainings in there every week. So, really fun community full of health and wellness professionals. And on Tuesday mornings, I do my trainings where everybody gathers and can ask questions. And then I run, like I said, I run workshops, exactly what to say workshops where I take people through using the phrases, getting practice with them. And then I also have a group coaching program called Next Level Sales that I run once every couple of months. I have one coming up in October of this year. So, definitely connect with me in my Facebook group. Would love to get to know you. I'm also on Instagram at the Nicole Cramer. I put some goofy reels and funny things up there. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anybody listening who wants to learn more.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I'll include the links to your Facebook group and your website too is on there. And this was so great. I'm gonna try some of those phrases today.
Yeah. Let me know how they go. I know I'm excited that you're going to try it with your boyfriend too. Super exciting. So awesome. Well, thank you for having me on, Cynthia. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole.